Welcome back to the final part of your Sookie Crochet Cardigan.
We got show me love. This is all we got. Show me love.
Hey everyone, I'm so excited. We are finally here. The final steps of your cardigan. Are you ready to put it together? I bet you are. So by now you should have all of your panels, your front and back panels and your sleeves. And now we're going to take all those bits and pieces and put them together. So I'm sure, as you can tell, this is not a typical way of putting together a cardigan. The seams that we're going to be doing are definitely unique to the Sookie Crochet Cardigan, which is fine. It's one of those things that I wanted to show you of, you can think outside the box when it comes to your sweaters of, you know, we always been talking about gauge and like the sizes and things. Well, there's little ways that we can tweak our sizes even now in our seams and make things look totally different. There's still options out there. So hopefully, as you see, there'll be a little bit of inspiration here and there, but for the most part, we are going to go ahead and crochet a sweater together. You'll notice when we're down at my hands, I'm doing a tiny version. I'm not gonna put together a whole one, or else you'll be super bored because you're gonna be sitting here forever watching me put together sweater. So everything I'm gonna be doing is exactly what you're gonna be doing, just the smaller version, just a tiny version, okay? So let's move down to my hands so I can show you what we're working on. Right here, you'll notice there's a couple things you're gonna want around. I have the schematics that we've been working on near me. Obviously, we're going to start with your panels, but you want your sleeves close by too. You will want a tapestry needle because we'll be doing some seaming. You need your hook, some scissors, and when we get to the sleeves, you're going to want some pins so we can pin them in. But before we go and seam them, we pin them together. So, first things first, we're going to be working on this back seam. So if this is my two fronts, we're going to be working on a little part here that's going to seam these two together. On your big schematic, it's this part in here. Now, for all of those that might have changed the length, what you'll notice in the pattern, it's going to tell you that when you're doing the first row of this back seam, it's going to tell you that you need to continue your pattern until 1/2 of the panel. Think of it as like the top of your shoulder to the bottom. So that's 1/2 of your panel. So you're going to go all the way up minus 2 inches. So for your back neck, this is where your collar comes in. You're going to want to leave that free for our edging later on. So when I get to the first row, if you did not follow the pattern, meaning you added extra length or you took away length, this here is, you need to determine how long you make it. I'll say it again while we're doing it. It's the same thing that is highlighted here. So this is what I mean by 1/2. Half of it ends here. It's like this is half. This part here is 2 inches. You want to leave a 2-inch edge because basically you don't want your collar to come all the way up like into your back of your head. You want it to be dropped down a little bit so it curves more naturally. All right, so that's why you need these guys here to tell you what to do, kind of give you a guideline of where we're going. Now, to get started, if you've seen all the pictures on Marley and what we posted online, is that our back panel, this part here is almost like filet lace. It's a totally different stitch pattern than these two. So you're going to have two parts of it. The left panel, it starts at the corner and you're going to work your way up. The right panel will start here and you work your way down. It's going to be the same stitch pattern on both sides, but it's one of those things when you lay it down. The one that, when you have it facing up, Your left panel is the one that's face up, and you can work on the right side edge. This long edge is the one we work on. So it's like, I like to have these next to each other. Your sleeve would go here or over here. So it's in here that we're working. All right, I'm going to take away the right panel for now because we don't need it. Where you start, I should mention, is marked with a star on your schematic. So let me bring back the panel schematic. Where you join for your back seam is marked with a star, just to kind of help you remember what you're doing. Okay. Here we're going to join our yarn in the corner with a chain 3. You can join it with a standing double crochet too if you like. I can show you both if you would be interested. So in the corner, that means these corners have 3 single crochets in the corner. I'm going to join my yarn to the center of those 3 single crochets. So I'm going to join my yarn with a slip stitch. And I'm going to chain 3 to get tall. That's one way of starting. Perfectly fine. That's what's written. If you would prefer, here's a little different way of starting. You could start with a standing double crochet. So to make that, you have your slip knot on your hook and you yarn over your hook. You're going to put your fingers here so that they don't run away. Then insert your hook into that same stitch. Yarn over, pull up a loop. So you have 3 loops on your hook. And you'll notice my finger never went away. I wanted to make sure that those loops don't go anywhere. I'm going to yarn over, pull through 2. Now yarn over, pull through the other 2. So this is what's called a standing double crochet. If you want to do it. It's different than a stacked double crochet, obviously. So that's called a standing double crochet. You could only start it like when you're starting your new yarn ball. You wouldn't start it at the beginning of the row. Now, with that, you either have your chain 3 here or your double crochet. You're going to double crochet in the next single crochet. Now we start the pattern. It's chain 1, skip 1 single crochet, double crochet in the next 2 single crochets. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the next 2. We continue this for the amount that the pattern calls for, or to that length that we've been talking about. Half of the panel minus 2 inches. So you're going to just continue going chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the next 2. You're going to continue that, working your way up. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet 2. So this is how we're going to get our little lace. You can see how the chain 1s leave a little hole, and that will give us like that little lacy panel that's in the back. Now, what if you don't like this? What if you want it solid? How would you do it? Pretty easy. Instead of doing that chain 1, you could just put double crochet. So you could make a whole row of double crochets. Doesn't really change the pattern. It makes yours will be solid and mine won't, but it does not change the pattern. You could easily make this a solid panel back here if you want. It's one of those little things that you could change this if you wanted. The main idea is that we're just crocheting like a little piece of fabric to connect the 2. And that width of fabric will become our neck, like the space for our neck. All right, a little bit more. for this little mini version, I know that I need to stop right around here. I think I'm going to do one more set. Now, obviously on the one that you're working on, the amount of double crochets, if you made it the same length that I did, would tell you how many double crochets you need. If you made it longer, then you want to do it, remember, let's get this whole panel. This is half of my panel. You want to do it half minus 2 inches, so you leave a little bit less. So that's what I mean by this is half. Do it about 2 inches less. Do it a little bit less and stop it. So then how many double crochets you have would vary. That would be different for everyone. Okay. Now, that was row 1. Row 2, we're going to turn our work, and we're basically, just ignore that you're working on this panel, and we're going to be working up the side. In this stitch pattern, we chain 1, and we're going to be working between these 2 double crochets. So I'm going to insert my hook between the 2 double crochets, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Then in the chain 1 space, I'm going to put 2 single crochets. Between the next doubles, I'm going to put 1 single crochet. And I'm going around everything. So I'm going around the whole chain space. And I'm going around all of the top 2 loops, all of the things in between my double crochets. So we continue this all the way down. It's 1 single crochet between the 2 double crochets, and then 2 single crochets in the chain 1 space. You'll notice maybe while I'm doing it that the yarn that we're using is the color change. Obviously our color changes have been making stripes this way, and so here it'll make stripes going the opposite direction. If it bothers you, choose the colors that you want here. If it doesn't bother you at all, then just keep using your yarn as is. You can always pick the colors that you have in the back. It didn't bother me, obviously, in the version that Marley is wearing, and it doesn't bother me on this mini version. I'm just letting you know you didn't do anything wrong. Going in a different direction, so you're going to have your color going in a different direction. Okay, so we continue the whole thing, 2 single crochets in each chain 1 space, a single crochet between the double crochets. We continue that all the way down. When we get to the end, we keep doing the same thing. We're going to put a single crochet between the 2 double crochets. Then in the very last double crochet, you'll put a single crochet. This way, we will have the correct number of stitches when we come back and do our next rows. Now, feel free to fast forward ahead. All that you're going to do is another row of singles and another row of doubles. You can join me as I do it, or you can fast forward ahead. It's up to you. There's nothing exciting. Just another row of another row of double crochets and chains, and then another row of singles, and then fasten off with a long tail because we can use that for seaming. For those of you who want to hang out while I crochet, come hang out. I'm going to start the row with a stacked double crochet. You could start it with a chain 3 if you wanted. I'm going to start mine with a stacked double crochet. You guys already know how to do those. Double crochet in the next single crochet, chain 1, and then continue, skip 1, 2 double crochet, chain 1, and we continue our stitch pattern as we set out. As you're doing it, don't worry. The way we did it, they are not exactly on top of each other. They're offset just a tiny bit. Nothing wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. That's because we put 2 single crochets in the center here, not 1. So they're off just a tiny bit. But when you're wearing it, you don't really notice. So don't worry about it. You didn't do anything wrong. We get down to the last 3. We'll chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet in the last 2. All right, that's row 3 done. Row 4 is the repeat of row 2. We'll flip around. And I'm going to put, my first one is going to go in between. Then my next 2 will go into the chain 1 space. 1 in between, 2 in the chain 1 space. And I'm doing all single crochets. If you decided to make it solid and did all double crochets, you could certainly put your single crochets in between each one of your double crochets. You can still, you don't have to put it in the top 2 loops. You could put it in the 3rd loop that you learned about and make stripes on your back. There is, sky's the limit with what you would like to do here. If by chance you were thinking, man, I wish this was just a little bit wider, meaning your cardigan, you could repeat row 3 and row 2 one more time. It gives you between 3/4 of an inch and an inch, but if you wanted it just a tiny bit wider, you could add 1 more row repeat. I wouldn't do too many more than that. You could add 1, so it could be like a little bit bigger. Because you don't want your cardigan to fall off your shoulders because your neck is too big. But you could add a little bit. All right, we're at the end. I'm going to do my single crochet through the last 2 double crochets and then single crochet in the very, very last double crochet. All done. I'm going to leave a nice long tail for seaming. All right, now that we have that done, we need to repeat it on our other panel. So if you also changed your length and you're wondering, where do I join my yarn? How do I figure that out? What you're going to do is you're going to count how many you have across. I like to count the double crochets because I know that there are groups of 3. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11. So I know that this is 11 groups of a double crochet plus a chain, so that's 33 stitches plus 2 more, so it's 35 stitches. So I know for my corner, my very first one needs to be in the 35th stitch. So you find your corner, you're going to count up 34 and join your yarn to the 35th stitch. So whatever yours was. Of course, if you're following pattern, it already tells you how many you do, so you can end up at the end. Okay, so I'm going to move this one up here for now because it's all done. And then this one, I know I need to join my yarn up here somewhere. I need to put it in the 35th stitch. So if I go ahead and find my corner, I'm going to find my middle stitch, which is this one. This is my middle stitch. So I need to mark, I'm going to join my yarn in my 35th stitch. I'm going to get my yarn ready so I can join it. And so then this one counts as one because we want to end in this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. And then I know in the very next one, this one here, that would be my 35th stitch, is where I wanted to join my yarn. Join your yarn the same way that you joined it last time. If you did a standing double crochet, do that. Or do a slip stitch with a chain 3. So again, you count this corner and you're going to count all the way up so that these will match. So they have the same number of stitches. That makes sense, right? You need the same number of stitches. Okay, so working down is the exact same way. The difference is here we ended with a single crochet row. With this one, we'll end in our double crochet row. So again, you can follow along and watch me, or you can just pause the video and zoom it forward. All I'm going to do is repeat the directions over there. So skip one, double crochet in the next two. So the only hard part is the counting, and I won't lie, it's been many, many times where I get to the end and I don't have enough stitches or I counted wrong. Don't worry, just do it again. They need to match. So even if you were just following the pattern, feel free to count it. Maybe you went off somewhere here. Maybe you did one less. Who knows? Count what you have and do the same number over on this one. It is one of those things with crocheting or knitting. The counting always seems to mess us up. But there's nothing different in the stitch pattern over here. It's the same stitch pattern. We did half on this one, half on this one. If you're doing the larger sizes, you're going to do an extra double crochet and single crochet row to get you a slightly wider neckline. You'll want it, trust me. But those are the only two differences between the smaller sizes and the larger sizes in the back neckline, in the back seam, as it were. All right, we'll see if my counting worked out. This is always nerve-wracking. Oh, and look, we have 3 stitches left, including the one I marked of where I wanted to end. Whew. Always worries me that I'm going to count wrong. But no problems. Okay. So my count worked out, but because, you know, I'm a little extra, I like to look and make sure that all of my double crochets are the same. They are. Then I go, yes. All right. Now I can just go on autopilot. I know it seems silly, but sometimes, goodness, those simple things, because they seem simple, you don't really put a lot of attention to, and then, oof, you mess up. Okay, all I'm going to do is another single crochet row and a double crochet row and finish off. So there is nothing exciting here. It's the same. Put my stitch through the first one and then double crochet in the next 2. Double crochet in the next 2. 2 single crochets in the next single, in the next chain 1 space. I won't lie, one of the reasons I made it lacy in the back is so that we could kind of speed through it. And it would still look nice. It's having any more texture. All right, I'm at the end, putting my single crochet in the end, and then I'm completing another double crochet row, the same as row 3 over there. Then don't forget, you could add another single crochet and double crochet row if you wanted to make it a little wider at your neck. Now, the reason that I had one of them end on a double crochet row, meaning one panel ended on a double crochet row and one ended on a single crochet row, is because I wanted to kind of hide the seam a little bit. It won't be perfectly hidden when we whip stitch them together, but if we had ended on 2 single crochet rows, we'd have an extra thickness on our back. And maybe you wouldn't notice, but it's nice to have them so that these rows don't look that much different than this one. Having an extra single crochet row would make it a little bit fatter there. I didn't love that idea. All right, almost done. All right. I'm gonna cut off. And that is the end of that. So obviously for the larger sizes, you have an extra repeats or more if you decide to give yourself a little bit more of room for your neckline. All we need to do now is you're going to put your right sides together, so your wrong sides are sticking out, or your right sides together. It doesn't really matter. It's up to you. And then you will whip stitch these two together. You are going to, what's nice is that you have all these stitches, which is the exact same number. So just insert your hook through the top 2 loops, insert your hook, insert your needle through the top 2 loops of one, insert your needle through top 2 on the same stitch on the other side, and just whip stitch them together. So that is, I'm going to move this out of the way because there's something else I will show you with that. So we're just going to insert our hook and matching these 2 loops together. So it will just essentially make a little candy cane, as you can see, right? So that's one way. None of you will be surprised that that is not the way that I did it. Because if you've been here long enough, you know that I do not like whip stitching if I don't have to. So, if you're like me and you don't want to do this, I have another option for you. Now, you remember how on our first panel we ended on this slip stitch row? We ended on the single crochet row. I'm going to have you rip that out. what we're going to do is we're going to crochet this single crochet row to the other panel all at the same time. So when you're doing it, if you want to do this crochet seam, you don't have to. Again, you can just whip stitch and be done. If you want to do this crochet seam, end before your last single crochet row, then go ahead and do this panel. To crochet them together so that you're crocheting this final row and joining this one above. First things first, make sure you're on the right side. So this is, I'm ready for crocheting. So I'm on the wrong side here. This one is also on the wrong side. Remember, the right side has our lines because this single crochet row ends up being on your wrong side. Now, what you're going to do is take your free loop and thread it through where it would go if we were doing the single crochet row on this one. So in this case, we're going to start by threading it through the 2 double crochet. So I insert my hook into that row and insert my hook, pop my free loop on my hook and pull through. And basically ignore what's happening there, right? Ignore that it's joined on here at all. Then I'm going to come through and I'm going to complete this single crochet by inserting my hook where I would on these 2 double crochets, between those 2 double crochets. So I'm pulling up a loop, yarning over, pulling through 2. Now I'm going to once again take this free loop. I'm going to insert my hook in the same direction I went before, pop my free loop on, and put it into the chain 1 space. Then come over here and finish it in the chain 1 space. I know I need 2 in there, so I'm going to insert my hook into the chain 1 space again, pop my free loop on, and come back over here and finish it. So what's basically happening is I'm twisting, or I'm working that free loop around the row above or the panel above. So I'm inserting my hook from the top to the bottom, popping my free loop on, pulling it up, then completing the stitch down here. So again, inserting my hook from I'm going from the front to the back, popping my free loop on, pulling it through, now completing that single crochet in the next chain 1 space. Again, inserting my hook, popping that free loop on, pulling it back up, and completing my single crochet. So I just keep that rhythm going the whole way. Removing your hook from your free loop is probably, the scariest thing that you're doing here. Otherwise, it's, think about that it's like you are weaving these 2 together as you're crocheting. So it gives, a similar candy cane effect, but it's a flat seam. Let me get a little bit further and then I can show you the seam. Again, if you hate this, don't do it. There's no reason that you have to. It's just something fun that I like to show everybody. So I'm inserting my hook from the top to the bottom, popping my free loop on, then going ahead and doing a double crochet, popping my free loop through, and completing my stitch. So I'm doing the same stitches. So remember, if there's 2 single crochets in the chain 1 spaces and then 1 single crochet between the 2, I'm doing the same with my free loop of moving it back and forth. Okay, so when it's laying down, it's giving, this line is giving the same look here. When it's on the right side, you can't really even see where it's seamed together, and that's why I like it. It's flat too. There's nothing bulky about it. It's not adding anything. So it's just an option. So when you're all done, You can continue that seam all the way down, and then join me back and we'll talk about our side seams. All right, I'll see you guys shortly. Welcome back to the final part of your Sookie Crochet Cardigan. All right, so now you have your back done, and we're gonna do our side seams. So our side seams are just the double crochet row, and then you whip stitch it to the other side. The only thing here is if you changed your size, meaning you changed your length. That's really the only difference that we have going on here. And then we can talk about how to put in our sleeve. So just 2 more little things left. Let's head down. All right. Here's my little mini version. You can see the side seam that we finished. I left mine with the crocheting the seam together. So now we're ready to do our side seam. If you follow the pattern and do the same length, you're going to do the same thing that we just did. We're going to join our yarn here, crochet up, leave a long tail, and then seam it, whip stitch it to the back. But let's say you didn't do that and you made it longer or you made it shorter. What I want you to do is I want you to grab out your sleeve. So here's my sleeve, and I want you to fold it over in half. So what you're going to do is you're going to match up the shoulders. You're going to match up the shoulders, and then wherever this ends, I want you to put a stitch marker. This is where generally this is where I need to end when I join it and I go up. This is generally so that I'm leaving room for my sleeve. When you do this, we're going to talk about it in a second, because again, remember, this is going to add like 1/2 inch back here. So we need to kind of end. This is where this ends. We're going to end, I want to end maybe like one more stitch so that I can fold in my sleeve. You'll see as we go. So this is marking off where my sleeve ends. So I'm going to go ahead and join my yarn and do the same thing as we were doing. It's the same stitch pattern again. It is the 2 double crochets with the single. If you don't like the way it looks, you could just do a row of double crochets. If you want a little smaller, you could do a row of single crochets and then whip stitch it. However you would like to do it. This adds just a tiny bit of width on either side. If you needed to add more width, you could add it to a crochet seam. The only difference is that you will need to crochet a little bit higher, because this is going to add width. Because like when you think about your sleeve, there's only so much length in your sleeve. So like if this little bit needs to, fit into the seam, if you make the seam wider, you just need to make this taller and do a little tiny bit shorter of your armhole opening. It makes more sense when you're seaming it, trust me, because it's like you have to fold it around. Okay, let's join our yarn and do the side seam so that we can show the sleeve. Join your yarn in the middle single crochet with a double crochet, or with a slip stitch and a chain 3, and then continue your stitch pattern. So if you're following the pattern, just do it as many times as it tells you to. If you've added length, you need to make sure you have marked off, like I have marked off on mine, to continue this stitch pattern up until the marker. And when we get close to the marker, we actually want to go 1 or 2 stitches past the marker. Not a lot past the marker. We don't need that much. But just remember, like, this row takes a little bit of the length of this. So when I'm insetting this, it's going to take a stitch or two to get across it. That's why when I get to my marker, I want to make sure that I am going 1 or 2 stitches past it. So for me, I'm going to add one more because I want to see where this ends up. No one's going to notice that you had 3 at the end instead of 1. So you could continue the pattern if you wanted to do. What I'm going to do is, before I cut off, because this is not following the pattern, I don't know exactly how many double crochets to do, because, you know, let's pretend I added that length. I'm going to want it to, again, lay it down, fold my sleeve, and make sure that this makes sense. So I'm going to join it at the top so that the two top of the shoulders match, and then watch as this comes down. And look, it overlaps on one stitch, which will work out perfectly because this ends up getting also attached to here. So that will end up being great, right where it ended. Okay, so now I can fasten off a long tail. I'm going to go ahead and whip stitch this to the back. You can join the right sides together, join the wrong sides together, however you want to do it. You're just going to be making sure that you are matching up your stitches and I'm just whip stitching. If you don't like whip stitch, you can absolutely do any seam that you want. If you don't want to whip stitch through both of these, you could whip stitch on the outer loops here to make it join together even tighter. So it becomes not as thick as this. It kind of hides the seam a little bit. And it's just 1 for 1 seaming all the way down. I'm inserting my hook through the front loop of one and the back loop of the other side all the way down. And that's just so that they join together tighter. You can go through both if you'd rather. It goes very quick. I put that together so then they will close together better. That's why I'm doing the 1-to-1, but you don't have to if you don't want to. All right. At the very bottom. And then you go ahead and weave this in. So now our side seam is all done, all whipped together. So when you open it up, you now have an armhole here, and this little part matches this little part. It's just a little extra touch. All right, seaming your arm. What I like to do is I'm going to turn everything inside out. So I'm working on the inside. So the wrong side is out when I'm working on it. So I'm going to also take my sleeve and fold it in half, because what I like to do is I like to start by matching the very top of my sleeve to the top of the shoulder. So I'm going to fold this in half as well, and this is how these two are going to join. So I will go ahead and make sure that they are joined together. So you'll notice that I had it folded in half so I could find where the top was. If you want, you can even put a stitch marker in there so you know where the top is. I'm folding this in half, and then so I fold this in half, so then I make sure that this shoulder is matching up. So the halfway point of your sleeve is right at the top of your shoulder. Now I'm going to use pins to hold mine together. Then what I like to do is I come down here and I'm going to match my end so it ends halfway in the seam here. So this is the side seam. I'm going to pin it so it's halfway in the side seam. Now I take the rest of my sleeve and I'm going to ease it in. So all that means is that more than likely these stitches won't line up one for one. That's okay. What you're going to do is you're just going to ease it in so it rounds out the sleeve, and you're going to pin it together. So then you just take this side and whip stitch it. So I'm going to take a bunch of yarn and starting at my shoulder seam, I will whip stitch down my sleeve. So this is one half of my sleeve. So I'm just going into the fabrics and whip stitching it together. If you like other seams, go ahead and do that. Don't worry so much about, like it's one for one stitches. It's not going to be because of insetting the sleeve and how it was designed. If you have an extra one on your sleeve, that's fine. If you don't, it's fine too. It's not like it matters. It doesn't matter. We just want to make sure that it's curved in there nicely. So I'm going to continue all the way to my side seam. Get my pins out of the way. And then remember, I want this to end in the middle of that side seam. So I hold it in place and just continue whip stitching it so it's right in the middle. I'm going to leave this tail because I can use it to weave in for doing the underside. So this, all that this was one side. So now you come back and you do the same thing. You're going to match it all up. So you join this in the middle down here. So I'm taking the other side, joining it into the middle of the side seam. Taking a pin and pinning it. And then I ease all the rest of it into and all that easing it in is just making sure that it's all curved, so you can fan out your sleeve so it's curved into your arm opening. Then I'll start back at the top again where I ended, and I will whip stitch and match it down at the bottom. That way all of the ends are at the intersection underneath your arm, and you can't, you won't notice them. They won't be at the top of your shoulder. So I'm going to go ahead and join a new thread and just go ahead and whip stitch down. I'll leave, a 2 or 3 inch tail just so I can tie them together, and then I will weave those in later so they're not seen. All right, so I'm going to take my last one. Now this one I want to make sure it ends right where the next side, where the opposite side began. I'm going to take the last 2 stitches and then I flatten it out and whip stitch the first and last stitches together and pause. So now we're looking at it. We started at the shoulder and worked our way down back here. We started at the shoulder and worked our way down here. Now you can take these, you'll have extra tails down here, so some of them you're just going to weave in, and you can take your other one and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to whip stitch along the underseam. So I'm going to take the tail that is the longest, which is this one. Ignore those guys. And whip stitch my underarm. So the underarm is now, once you have it, all set in your armhole, this part is pretty easy. Just go ahead and match them up, match up your ends. What I like to do is make sure that these top 2 loops are lined up and pin it so that those lines will match underneath. So here's the next 2, line them up. And those 2 are nice and lined up. Okay. Now I'm going to just whip stitch my underseam, because obviously it's not like I'm going through top 2 loops. What I'm doing is going through both fabrics, but I'm doing it every 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch along the edges. And I'm making sure that I'm going through at least a couple strands on each stitch along the edge. Not just like one strand of one side. I make sure I'm going through, like when I'm grabbing here, I have 2 strands at least on each side. So I'm stabbing through the heart of the stitches when I'm whip stitching. If you'd rather do the woman stitch on the here, go ahead. You can. I didn't do it because it's the underarm and no one's really raising up their arms to show somebody their seam. So I didn't really care for it to be, if it was seamless, I didn't care. With whip stitches, you always will see a little bit of the candy cane going down. So I didn't care if we did, because it was the under seam. But with crochet, you could definitely make it invisible by doing a woven seam if you wanted to. You can. I just didn't find that it was needed here. I wasn't interested in it. All right, close to the edge. All right, so then all the rest of these, they all get woven in. These guys all get woven in. Now that we are finished with seaming this, we can turn the whole thing right side out again so you can see what it looks like. Okay, so the under seam, like I was saying, you have a little bit of the candy cane, but it's underneath, so I don't care. All I wanted to make sure is that these were generally going to line up, the two sides, and they do. And then here is, a bit of the candy cane, the whip stitching. You can see it doesn't really bother me on the sleeve. The side seam, move this out of the way. The side seam and underneath, this is what I mean by, you have to make sure you leave a little extra because we have a little bit of space here, so you have to make sure you go up a stitch or two higher when you're doing it. But this is what it all looks like put together. So you can see it in all of its glory of what it looks like. All you'll need now is your edging, your collar, and your cuffs, which is kind of a repeat of this, so you guys got it. Yeah, I got it. That is all you need. So I'm going to let you guys go because you got a little bit of work to do, right? You got a little bit of work to do left to finish this all up, and then you got a cardigan to wear. So I'm so excited. I hope you've enjoyed this journey. It's been a big one this year. We've done quite a lot with this Sookie Crochet Cardigan. It's a lot of fun. It's a really enjoyable garment to wear, so I hope you really like it. When you're all done, please take a picture. We would love to see what you've done and what yours looks like. Please post it on the Marley's Minions Facebook group. We can't wait to cheer you on, see what it looks like. I'm really, really excited. Until next time, I'm Robyn Chachula over here at marleybird.com. Check out what else we have going on. There's always something fun. Anyway, I hope I see you again real soon and we get to crochet something else together. Bye, everyone.